Deanna, the distinguished ranking member of the Subcommittee on the Western Hemisphere of our Foreign Affairs Committee, Mr. Burton.
I thank
The gentleman from Indiana is recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the gentlelady for yielding. You know, the things that are being said today, if George Washington had had television and radio and newspapers, would have been said about him. I mean, several of his generals wanted him out because he wasn't winning battles and things were going wrong. Even in the Congress of the United States, Lee of Virginia led the charge to try to get rid of George Washington during Abraham Lincoln. McClellan, one of his chief generals who wouldn't fight, ran against him for president, and Lincoln was going to be defeated if they hadn't taken Atlanta. Sherman hadn't taken Atlanta. War is not a popular thing. It's a horrible thing. Chairman Lantos was a survivor of the camps during the Holocaust, during World War II. I'd like to ask you a question. What would have happened if we hadn't won that war? How many more Jewish people would have been killed in those camps? Millions more. 6 million died, but many millions more probably would have died if Hitler had prevailed. But we had Winston Churchill, who was willing to go to the mat to make sure that they didn't win and that he was going to defeat Hitler. If we pull out unilaterally like they're talking about right now, we leave those people over there who voted and held their fingers up, we leave those people to their fate with these people who are radicals, who are going to take over. Iran has camps. Senator Lieberman talked about that. They have training camps right there along the border. They're sending terrorists in to help augment the terrorists in Iraq. And if we unilaterally pull out, just like you're talking about, those people who voted and who voted for freedom and democracy, many, many, many of those will die, maybe even more than who've been dying in Darfur. And you have been talking about how important it is that we do something in Darfur. A vacuum will be created, and Iran will fill it. They will not stop their nuclear development program, and we will be in peril down the road from their nuclear development program, because they'll have a real jumping off point throughout the Middle East, not just in Iran, but in Iraq and possibly Afghanistan, if many of you have your way. I don't know why we're not waiting on General Petraeus' report. We just gave him authority and gave him the money to pursue this until he reports back in September. I don't understand why we're jumping the gun and trying to force withdrawal right now when General Petraeus, who talked to all of us, has not had a chance to succeed. 61 million people died in World War II, 6 million Jews. $61 million. In this nuclear age, if we pull in our horns and let Iran run wild over there, which they will, and they develop their nuclear program, how many millions could die in this country as well as around the world? I submit to you, it would probably be more than 61 million. In the United States, we pull out like you're talking about, we'll probably have to go back in to stop them from developing that nuclear capability and stop them from training these people to go in and terrorize not only Iran, but also Iraq and other places in the Middle East. That's a tinderbox over there, and we have to make the right decisions. Every president that has been in a war has been criticized by Congress at one time or another. Every single president, unless it was a very short war where you won in 5 or 6 days or a couple months. This is no exception. Have mistakes been made? You bet. Were mistakes made in World War II? 800 guys drowned in a mock Normandy invasion off the coast of England. If we'd had television then, we wouldn't, and the newspapers we have today, we would never have invaded Normandy because they would have stopped it just like that because of criticism of those 800 guys drowning to death. They'd say it wouldn't have worked, it wasn't feasible. This is a very, very important issue we're talking about. Our brave soldiers are doing their job over there. And they watch on television right now, and what are they hearing? Pull out, pull out, pull out. And they say, what are we fighting for if the Congress is going to say, jerk us out right now? And we've heard from a lot of them that say, hey, we're doing the job and we're doing better right now. I just think we ought to think very long and hard about what we're doing. It could affect a world war. We're in a world war against Al-Qaeda right now. But it could be a much more devastating war if we don't make the right decisions. And I'd just like to say to my colleagues, I think it's extremely important that you think long and hard about what you're trying to do. Nobody likes war. Nobody likes war.